All right, hopefully everybody can hear me. This is Scott Campbell. I'm on here as Bruce Crownhour tonight because Bruce notified me a little while ago he couldn't make it tonight. He had something come up. So even though you see Bruce's name talking right now, it's actually Scott Campbell. So I just want to let everybody know good evening and I hope everybody's doing well. And a couple housekeeping things before we get started. With the presentation tonight by Mike Bartram, State Rules Interpreter, and Rob Rittarelli from the NJFOA South Chapter. Rob will be the co-host this evening because he'll be handling the video and the PowerPoint part of it. So if we could have everybody have it muted and keep your cameras off. And if you have a question, please make sure you slip it into the chat box and I'll do my best to monitor any questions. And if anybody else happens to see them, please chime in. Other than that, right now we have I think it's about 140 and growing people coming on. So we're going to get ready to start in a minute. And a couple things before we get started, and I turn it over to Rob Rittarelli. Our next presentation will be on April 20th at 7:30, and that will be the topic that evening will be unusual plays, and that will be presented by Jerry Picazio and Bob Masucci, and I will guarantee you that will be a good one. So I hope I don't put pressure on them early. So that will be a real good one. So that'll be April 20th, 7:30. Couple other things before Rob takes it. And everybody remember that in May, you will have it'll open up for the August clinic, which will again be August 5th at Sayreville High School. And last but not least, if you have any intention on turning in a proposed change for the 6-man mechanic committee, your time is running out because tomorrow is the cutoff date. So if you have anything that you would want to turn in, that email's been sent out a couple times. And if you have anything that you want us to consider as a committee, has to be into me tomorrow. I believe I set the cutoff at 6:00 p.m. So otherwise, we're going to have our first meeting on Sunday, I think it's April 2nd, and consider everything that's been submitted. So without further ado, I am going to turn this over to Rob Rittarelli and Mike Bartram and let them host this evening's session, which will be on holding. And like I said, if you have any questions, please make sure you slip them into the chat box down the bottom, and we'll make sure we get them going. So right now we have 150 participants on, and hopefully that'll grow because we did have about 330 registers. So I'm making sure that everybody's getting on. So Rob, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, sounds good. Good evening, everyone. As Scott mentioned, my name is Robert Rittarelli. I am a referee with the NJFOA South Chapter and room rep for the referees. And with me tonight will be Mike Bartram, who I'm sure everybody knows is our state rules interpreter. So we have a PowerPoint we're going to go through, and I'm going to load that now. Just give me a second to share the screen. Okay, hold on 1 second. Is everybody seeing the NJFOA South logo? And
yep, we're good.
Great,
we're good, Rob.
Excellent. All right, so we'll jump right into it. So the agenda for tonight is we'll go through in the PowerPoint just a definition of holding, some what is holding statements. Then we'll go through what we want to classify within the state as our categories of holding. After we review the categories, we'll look at some things to consider while looking at for a hold on the field, and that'll tie into the categories. And then after we complete the PowerPoint, we will jump over to huddle and we will take a look at approximately 15 plays, 12 to 15 plays. And what I did was try to pull a good 4 or 5 plays that we could all look at that tie into each of the categories and get a different view of the hold, whether it might have been out on the wing or whether it was from a guard or a tackle. So Mike, I'll let you jump into the what is holding.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, so, we just wanted to go ahead and start basically, from a good foundation and work from the bottom up. So, what exactly is holding, right? How does the Federation look at it?
Lower that down.
Go downstairs.
All right. Whoever, yeah, thanks for muting everyone. Appreciate that. Oh. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Steph, for just muting everybody. So, again, talking about, what the actual Federation rule is. So, holding occurs when a player uses hands, arms, or legs to hook, clamp, grasp, encircle, or hold in an effort to restrain an opponent, right? So, anything that we see from a restriction standpoint, anything that's going to prevent a player from getting to a position, not using a lethal blocking technique, those are all things that can fall in the holding. Obviously, it's a 10-yard penalty, and there are 2 references in the book that actually discuss these terms and these definitions for holding. So, go ahead, Rob. So, holding is an interesting foul that we have because, looking at, and you'll hear it all the time, hey, you could call holding on every play. So, while it is the most probably common foul that we see in the game, it's also difficult because we need to be sure that when we throw that flag for holding, it's a right call and it's for the right reasons. So holding, like I said, we have a clear definition, but it can be subjective, right, to the degree in which the infraction occurred and as well as what was the effect on the play. Right. So as we see the hold and we decide to throw our flag, when we go in to report it to our referee or when asked by a coach, what did you have? It's important that you're able to, in a few short sentences or actually a few short words, one sentence, describe what you saw as the hold. Okay. Was it a takedown? Was it a hook and restrict, a grab and restrict? So being able to walk through and describe what you saw before you throw that flag is going to allow you to know that, hey, you got a good flag coming out and out onto the ground. So remember, if there's no impact on the play, then there probably is no foul for holding. Again, we don't want to use absolutes here, but that's the other thing is did you see an action? Was it an infraction? And how did that action affect the play? Was a clear advantage gained? Did it cause another player to be put into a disadvantage? So these are some of the things, and we're going to talk more about it in a little bit about, what to go through. But that's all the things that when we go into what is holding, it's things that we see that cause an advantage, disadvantage. And as an official, make sure you see the play and you can, like I said, describe what you saw in a very succinct way, because then everyone will understand that you just didn't make up the hold. You actually saw what happened. So, Rob? Rob, is this me or you? Who's going to, you got this one? Did we lose Rob, Scott?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you, Rob. Yep.
All right,
got it.
thanks, Mike.
Sure, no problem.
So grab and restrict. This is when a player extends his arms across the body and pulls back, either restricting the jersey or the material or the body, and preventing that opponent from moving towards a play. When we look at a grab and restrict, we want to look at that move as, did the defender actually earn the call? Meaning, with the exception, if a player has two hands inside and opponent's making no effort to disengage or pursue the play, then we're not going to call a hold on that play. In some cases, that player may just be content with holding his position and possibly turning a run back to the inside rather than letting it get outside of him. The second category we have is hook, and either a hook with a restriction or a hook with a turn. This is when a player extends his arms across the body and pulls back, restricting, again, the opponent from moving towards the play. When we look at a hook, and this could actually also apply to the grab and restrict as well, does the blocker's action on the offense, is it causing the defender to break his stride towards the play? Or does the offensive player have himself, in a good position or a good stance where he's able to make a solid block on that defender? Or is he beat out of position? He doesn't have good feet, and he needs to reach out and grab or pull at the defender to stop him from making a play. One exception that we have for this is, there maybe a player's coming on a pass rush and you have that quick initial hook, but there's no interruption to his pace, his step, or his effect on the ability to get after the opponent. So in that case, if it's a quick hook and he breaks through, we're going to pass on that. There's not going to be a hold there. The third and final category that we have is a takedown. And, self-explanatory. This is when a player just grab and restricts an opponent by taking him down directly to the ground or tackling him to the ground, full contact. So when we have a takedown, around the point of attack, this is always going to be a foul. There's no exception. A takedown is always going to earn a flag. I'll flip it back to you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. On that takedown, one thing to consider, there is a huge difference, right, between a player grabbing, restricting, and taking them down to a ground, as opposed to an offensive lineman who just simply overpowers a smaller defender, right? So in that case, those of us that might have played offensive line or, know the phrase of a pancake block, sometimes even that might look like a takedown, but that's where it's important to be able to see the whole play and understand what happened, right? So that's a good segue into, what are some things to consider before that flag comes out of your pocket? So did you see all the action, right? Just because you're going to see a guy on the ground, you have to understand, how did he get there? Did you see that physical takedown? Did you see that grab and restrict? Did you see something that made that defender, change his stride, change his pace, or have to spin out? So did you see all the action? Next, was that action at the point of attack, right? So if we're running off of the right tackle, right, and that right tackle, that right guard, that tight end, and you see them commit one of those holds, okay, those are automatics, right? But if we're off the ball, a wing looking in, and you see that player is going away, but a player close to you is, borderline for a hold. So that's one of those things where, was the action at the point of attack?
And Mike, one thing to add on that, as far as like effect on the play, sometimes, we have that hold where we have the hold, it's clear, but the player is actually held into making a tackle behind the line of scrimmage. So, in those situations too, yes, there was a hold. Yes, it was at the point of attack. What was the effect on the play? The effect on the play was a loss of yardage. In those instances, that could be a hold where we may want to pass on that hold.
Yep. Great point, Rob. So, and that's where also, asking yourself, did a player gain an advantage, or did they put their opponent in a disadvantage, right? So That's where, you really want to see that whatever that action was is what influenced that block, influenced that play. So again, we all know football is a quick game, and it's a lot easier to go through a checklist like this, on a PowerPoint on a Thursday night in March as opposed to a Friday night. But these are some of the things you have to ask yourself quickly before you decide to go ahead and throw that flag, right? So you need to process, in real time what you saw, right? So tell yourself, hey, that's a hold. Slow yourself down. And if you can get through these questions and you're checking them all off as you go, then yeah, we have a hold, right? It's better to throw that flag, a half second later as opposed to a half second earlier. Make sure you see the whole thing. Make sure you agree with yourself that you can sell that. There really is an effect on the play, and that's when we're going to have, that's when we're going to have that call. And another question to ask yourself, and this is something that I know, is going to be a theme going forward when it comes to calling fouls. Was it clear and obvious? Meaning, is it something that obviously everybody in the building saw? It was clear. It wasn't a ticky-tack call. It wasn't an in-between, right? Make sure that those players earn those 10 yards when we get the flags out of our pocket.
Yeah, good point too. Like, let's not overreact to like that initial grab. Like Mike said, slow down, let the hold happen. A quick grab and release, 9 out of 10 times that's probably not a hold. All right.
Yep.
And that wraps up the PowerPoint portion of the presentation. So let me switch over to Huddle. Give me 1 second. Screens. All right, is everybody able to see the screen share?
Yep, we're good, Rob.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. All right, so we'll run through the plays, and again, we group them towards each style of hold. So we'll get like 4 or 5 plays that each focus on one of the 3 categories that we've discussed. So we'll start here with the first one. We're going to watch this inside receiver whose initial key is the short wing. So we're going to see a grab and restrict here at the circle on the player in blue. Again, nothing else is happening outside this play. We have the pass that came over to the wide out. So our short wing here can focus on this action, and so can our deep wing. You can see we'll bring that back real quick. This is right at the point of impact. You'll see the turn, the grab and restrict. Deep wings, let's make sure we're at the goal line. Anything to add on that, Mike?
No, I think the one thing you said there is the short and the deep wing, but in that situation with that ball out that quick, the umpire can also turn and try to help out with that. So that's something that we can definitely get our eyes out there and try to help with that too. We might actually have a better look, because as the ball carrier is going, as the short wing is picking up the ball carrier, his focus may not be on those blockers out in front. So that's one spot where umpires, we can help out as well.
Another good thing, I think, out, blocks out on the edge or blocks that are out wide. We want to, watch that, the action on the defender and see, is he released maybe in time to make a play on the runner? If he is, we may want to pass on that hole, but if he's released after that runner gets by him, then we know we definitely have a hold there. Okay, next play will be another grab and restrict. And just a reminder for our short wings, when we have 4th down and less than 3 yards to go, we want to get to the stick. Our first move should be the stick. And we're going to watch the inside receiver on the defensive back that's circled. Again, it's sort of very similar to the previous play. Nothing else going on the outside there other than this block. So our deep wing and our short wing should have to be focused right in that area. We'll bring it back and view it again. Mike, to your point earlier, the umpire could turn and see this as well. And we could see that hole clearly prevented the D-back from making the tackle.
Hey, Rob, can you just go back with it one more time?
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of things that we can do from holding is look at things on the block that are good indicators. We talked a lot about that on the blind side block, but here you'll see when that inside receiver, when there's separation, you see his arms extend straight out, right? So that shows he's still trying to hang on to that guy. So those are things that we can key in on just as a possible indicator for us on a hold.
And this was another grab and restrict that we'll see here on the defensive end. Plays coming right at him. You see he had hold of the jersey and pulled him back away from the play, preventing him from the ability to make that tackle. And again, now that right tackle there is going to be the referee's initial key. But as the action turns, our short wing could be looking at this as well as our umpire.
All right, we had a question there. The question was, well, there's a flag. I see the flag right there. The question was on either one of those plays before, were there flags on those plays? Could you guys? It
didn't look like it on the film. So I think those are two areas where, we're showing that those are, those were good examples of holds that, it looked like they might have been missed. But there weren't flags on there, but those are two plays that kind of going back to what we were talking about being clear and obvious out in the open that we think we want to get rides out on.
One more time with this play. Okay, I think this is our last grab and restrict play, but just from a different angle where we're catching a running back out on this lead block.
Do you guys have the video optimized only because it's a little choppy?
I have a wired connection. I don't know if there where you would optimize it. Is there somewhere in Zoom?
Yeah, if you unshare your screen and then hit share screen again on the bottom, there should be an option that says optimize video.
All right, let me look. I will try that.
Right when you hit share screen, it should be at the bottom before you actually share it.
we should be good to go.
Yeah, that's a lot better. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So again, as we look at this one, we see that grab and restrict, and as we mentioned earlier, you know, you have that hold out there on the wing, and maybe if he lets him go and he has that ability to make the play, we're going to pass on that. But he continued through that hold and was prevented from actually making a play on the ball. And again, in this formation here, we only have one wide out, so we know our wide outs initial key is the deep wing. That running back's key is key of the short wing. But again, our deep wing and our short wing, also our referee could be following this action as well. You know, after we go off of our initial keys, we want to zone up and officiate the game. This one I think would be I think this is our last grab and restrict. Sorry. We'll see a stunt towards the inside, which I think the umpire is going to have the best view of this. And then, you know, just a point for our referees. Let's make sure we're not straight lining ourselves directly behind the offensive tackle. Let's get, you know, a good 3 to 5 yards outside of that tackle on the right side. So we have a great angle to look inside and see our initial key plus the play of the whole offensive line. Take a look at it again. Anything from the umpire's perspective, Mike?
No, I think you're right, Robin. We're gonna have the umpires didn't have the best look at this, right? That's one where even though that play is going to the outside, when we see that initial grab in the inside, we're gonna want to stay with that just a little bit longer to see the whole play through before we start drifting out to help in the side zone. So.
I think this is our first potential hook call. Great. So we're going to watch the running back on the probably a corner. We'll see this again. He's coming right in towards the ball carrier and gets hooked around. And our short wing got the call. But our referee also has a good look at that as well. One more time.
That play is a lot better to watch. The previous play was choppy. So just to let you guys know.
Thanks, Scott.
Sorry.
Yeah, if it gets choppy, let me know. I'll run it back.
I'll let you know. That previous play before that was. But go ahead. Keep going. That one was better.
And here's another hook and restrict we're going to see from the running back out on the either the defensive end or the safety or corner. Good call by our referee. Again,
that's a good example. You can really see the defender is trying to fight through that, right? So that's one of those things also where, hey, the defender has to be making an effort to get out of that and not just let that hold happen to him and kind of throw his hands up and say he's done, right? The defender is very active in this case, trying to fight through that hold. So again, that's something else that would go into your process of flag or no.
Yes. And again, our referee and our short wing can pick this up. Potentially the umpire, Mike.
Yeah, potentially, but I think that's where that is. That's definitely the ref and the short wing have a much better look at it than.
Bob Masucci brought up a good comment here where the R repositions his flag, and what a good job he did, with the penalty. And Jerry Picazio is adding in here that the wings and R must not look at the runner and get your eyes out in front of the runner. So that's another good point there also.
Another good point, as we talked about before, let's say this defender was able to break through here, this hold, and make that tackle right back there on number 6. That could be a hold that we may pass on, because they would end up losing what looks like about 7 yards. And with the way the new rule is, it's only a 3-yard difference. Is my screen back up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because it just went black on me first. All right. Now we're watching the right tackle here and the defensive end. And we could see, as we discussed earlier, when we're looking at the categories and we're talking about a hook, offensive player obviously turns his feet, he's beat inside, which caused that hook.
Right. And another thing, I know we've been talking a lot about indicators, but that's another one where even though it's a hook, right? So we see at the upper body, when you see that those feet from the offense and the defense get equal like that, that's another great indicator that there potentially is a hold there, right? Because now that the defender's on that same level and to the side of him, the only thing that offensive player can do is get that arm out and try to hook the guy, right? So when we see that those feet get even, that's another great indicator.
I think that was our last hook, which takes us into the takedown category. So here we're going to watch the defensive end and the right tackle. And we'll see he was beat inside, obviously tackles him to the ground twice. As referees, that's our initial key. So, our referees, we want to be on that. But again, we can get, we're not really going to get much help from our short wing on the right side of the field here from this, because we have trips on this side of the field. So our short wing's not really going to be able to give us much help on that tackle. So as referees, when you have trips to that right side, you're kind of all alone with the tackle there. Because you could get help from your short wing on the opposite side of the field, because he only has one wide receiver to focus on, which would be the deep wings key. This is another example of a takedown we'll see from the wing back on the defensive end. And that player right there is our short wing key. So our short wing should be all over this.
Hey, Rob, can I make a comment?
Sure, Dan.
Hey, so Ed Camp says this all the time. He always says for short wings to not officiate air or officiate space. And I think this is like the perfect play to describe that. This is like short wing all day.
Yeah, good, great point. And it's right there. It's definitely the short wings key. How's the video, Scott? It's still good.
It just got a comment that this one was choppy, but this game in particular seems to be choppy for whatever reason. Every time you showed it, you had it going the other way. I don't know why, but
yeah, maybe it's the difference.
I have no idea with this particular video why it's like that.
Move on to the next takedown. So here we have the team in pump formation. We're watching that outside player on the defense with the player who's circled, and you're going to see he'll get beat, kind of gets overpowered, which is going to turn into a takedown. Almost the opposite of what you had mentioned earlier, Mike, where the offensive player is stronger and overpowers the defensive player into that pancake block. This is what may have been a pancake for the defense and turns into a takedown. And again, as referees, we should be able to get this hold in the backfield. You know, our focus is in initial snap. We're looking at our tackle, but we should also focus on the blocks of, you know, whether it's the one or those three personal protectors that are in the backfield. And as the play moves closer towards the punter, our focus is then, you know, safety of the punter, you know, roughing or running into. But as this block comes towards the punter, it's clearly in our peripheral vision. You know, we to Dennis's point earlier, don't officiate the air. Let's make sure we're officiating the game as it flows into our, you know, primary focus. I think this might be the last takedown. It's a great view from the end zone. And we'll watch the defensive end here. The offensive tackle. Clearly right at the point of attack. Good call by our short wing.
Just we want to stay off the field on that,
yeah.
though, right? Let's work to stay off the field on there.
Off the field. He needed an extra jolt to get the flag out, you know, the perfect spot. Oh, no, we have one more. I think this is a good example, this play here, of where you have your initial key, but as the play flows, you know, and you zone up and you're officiating the game. This starts out as, you know, what would be the umpire's initial key, the left guard, but as you'll see, he pulls and ends up making that hold on the left defensive end. Our referee is going to get this hold, which is a good job picking that up as the play flows, which was into his primary area of, where his initial key would have been. Anything on that, Mike, from the umpire perspective?
Yeah, no, again, that's where, with the action going to the offensive right side, the umpire should have a good look at that as well. So again, I know the referee, I think, gets it in this video. And it's going to be a tough get for the umpire just because the bodies are in front of him, but that's one where potentially the umpire could get that as well, or help out at least.
All right, that is the last play that
So
we
I
have
just,
for this
yeah,
evening.
just one thing I wanted to add is, Rob and I focused this primarily on offensive holding. But just as a reminder, right, the defense has the same restrictions put on them from a holding standpoint. So one thing that we need to be aware of, especially as umpires, and even the short wings on guys on the outside, like a lot of times now, defenders might try to hold an offensive lineman who's trying to fight to get to the next level to block a linebacker. So those are things that we need to be aware of as well, right? Remember that holding is not just an offensive foul, but we can have that on those defenders as well. So if you see a defender out there and he just grabs that guard and takes a guard to the ground, right, which is going to allow a linebacker to come in free, there's nothing wrong, and that is a hold, right? So there's nothing wrong with us getting our flags out and have a defensive hold. So those are, that is something that we have to remember to, sometimes we focus too much just on the offensive side of the ball, but the rules and restrictions go both ways.
We do have a question. I'm Rob or Mike, whoever wants to answer this, from Zach Zarnak. A pancakes B with obviously no official foul with the pancake. However, A just lays on top of B with his weight and doesn't allow him to get up. Hold. Yes or no?
From my perspective, he makes the block and pancakes him and ends up on top of him. Yeah, I think that's a pancake block, and you're not going to have a hold there. I would assume by that time after the pancake, the play is either moved by those players, that the runner is well past that play.
So the only caveat I would have on that is, and not to be too wishy-washy, but I think that's a depends. So if you have a player on the left side that pancakes his guy and that ball goes to the right and maybe he's still on him, if that ball breaks back and he reverses his field and is still there and that guy is still laying on top of him, I think you can talk yourself into a hold pretty easily in that case. But that's one of those things where you want to make sure. Yeah, Jerry, that's exactly where I was going to go.
Exactly what Jerry was saying. I agree.
That's
with
one thing where you're going to be encouraging. Hey, get him, let him up, right? And then talk to him after the play of, hey, listen, great job pancaking him, but we need to go ahead and let him go. So yeah, sometimes I'll even say that hey, let him up. So.
And to Jerry's point, Jerry said I would make that a talk to, and that's, I guess you could call that as almost like a preventive officiating type of category. And that's good point by Jerry. Anybody have any questions regarding holding? Now, obviously holding being everybody in the building knows what holding is, that sits in the stands and is on the bench, and they all think they know who's watching what. So easiest call for everybody that's not an official is holding. Just ask them, they'll tell you. Anybody have any questions or points that they'd like to bring up regarding holding? Please jump in, put it in the chat. All right, well, looks like that is it for tonight's session. And if we have anything to add, I'm just going to reiterate what I said earlier tonight when some people might not have heard it when we got on. Our next training session, we're done going for 2 in a month now that we're into some of the spring seasons and some of the different sports that you guys are officiating. April 20th, Jerry Picazio and Bob Masucci with Unusual Plays. And I'm sure that'll be a good one, like I said earlier. So that's our next session. And after that, we have 3 more left. And some of the topics to come up in May is going to be regarding the kicking game. June will be the unnecessary roughness and safety fouls. And then the last one in July will be intentional grounding and roughing the passer. So if we don't have anything for the good of the order this evening, I'm going to thank Mike Bartram and Rob Rittarelli for the presentation tonight. Good job, gentlemen. And I want to tell everybody to have a good evening. And of course, we're not going to see each other now again until after Easter. So happy Easter, and everybody please stay safe. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.